Hello. Good morning. How's everyone going? Let me know if you can hear me all right. So you can see the screen. I'm just finishing the setup here, and we're going to start something new. Hang on. Some references here. Okay, cool. Hey Edson, thanks for joining. Just misplaced my pen. Sorry. Oh, here it is. All good. All right, we are good to go. I just need to set up the camera again. All right, that's better. Cool. So yeah. So what I have here on the screen is basically the creature, well, the character, mecha character that we've been working on for the past couple of sessions. I'm just gonna call it, a day and just finish it. But I mean, it's finished. I don't wanna, spend more time on it. And it's kind of like rough still, pretty sketchy, I would say. The reason I want to show it to you is because I posted really quickly, but I want to keep this look like it's almost like a tiny figurine, like a miniature. So all the details are a little bit exaggerated, and again, it's not like super polished everywhere. So that it's like manufactured to be like quite small. So this will be kind of like for what's the name, like a tabletop game type of thing. So tiny, but yeah. So I just want to show you a couple of things that I did from the last kind of like session, so that you can get a full overview of the process. Because I literally just continue updating the model from last time, as in just polishing some of the surfaces, and then I posted. That's pretty much it. But today we're gonna start something new, hopefully. And I have some cool news as well, and a bunch of other stuff that I want to show you throughout the stream. Hey from Orlando, how's it going? Great to have you guys here on the stream. By the way, if throughout the stream you have any questions or you want to suggest things, by all means, this is part of the reason why we do this live, so that you guys can interact and you guys can ask questions or suggest things that you want to see, and based on what you suggest or what you actually ask me, I can sort of like guide the stream and create something that you guys wanna see. Cool. So let's go ahead and go through these. Actually, I'm just gonna turn on polyframe. And let's go ahead and go all low, so you can see better. All right, so I'm just gonna go quickly through all the subtools so that you can see what I have. So this is the head. You see, it's pretty basic. These polygroups that you see here are essentially just to cut it up in pieces so that I can produce a quick UV map. Like, it's not even, well thought of, I think. But again, it's just to create something that works, that is good enough for a concept. This is not gonna be for production or anything. A lot of these things can be really well optimized if I wanted to create something more production ready, something that could be useful. But it is useful. It's just that it's useful for a specific purpose, which is what I want to do, which is create a concept or a sculpture concept. And this is more than enough for 3D printing, for doing a render, even if you want to take it into a Substance Painter, all of that. So yeah, this is kind of like what I have. And if I turn that off and I switch to the high subdivision level, you see all the details in there. There's a little bit of bumps and stuff, like tiny grain, and that is from the surface noise that I just applied to it. And the rest, all of these scratches, is just done with the damp standard brush and the standard brush. But that's pretty much it, really. And it's the same thing for the rest. I just split different things. So I have the inner body, and the inner body is just is nothing. Yeah, it's pretty rough. But again, it just works. It's only what I want to see in this case. So just a couple of tubes. I think we use cylinders. and the kind of like the hips, and I use the noise plug to basically give it this kind of like pattern. And I haven't applied it or anything, so I can just show you. Yeah, so on the surface noise, just click on that, and that's what really gives it all the details. I don't have any other detail than that. Cool, let's go ahead and do the pads, and yeah, this is pretty much the main character, so, or the main set of characters. So it's just a few subtools. Everything's split into groups, or each piece is split into groups, and then I just went ahead and did the polishing and just adding some of those details and all of that. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Now that's across the model, the same kind of like polish level. Let's go to all high so you can see. Right. The other two things that I did just to wrap up this project was to pose the character, and I use the transpose master, and I use a cylinder to essentially create this base where I can place the model. Again, I want to create like a render that looks like it's a little piece that was printed like this big and then painted on with like, you know, real paint and stuff, and then just it can be used in one of those tabletop games on you know, Risk or something like that. So yeah, the posing process, I don't have it with me, but basically all you have to do really is go to C plugin. Imagine that this character is in a T pose. You can just go to the C plugin and go to transpose master. Here we go. Click on T pose or T pose mesh, and if you do that, ZBrush is going to send everything to the lowest subdivision level, or the lowest subdivision level available. So that's why it's sometimes good to have this in the subdivision approach or workflow, just so that you can do this type of stuff. And yeah, this is now a single piece. I forgot to turn on. If you turn on groups, right, ZBrush is going to carry those polygroups that you already have and into these, but it doesn't matter. You can just go ahead and do an auto group and you'll get similar grouping. And then to pose this hard surface, what I did was went ahead and hit what I didn't want to move or what I wanted to move. Let's say the arm, right? And then I'm going to hold Control and click once on the canvas, just mask everything, bring back everything. So now I have that arm, and then I can just go ahead and place this gizmo. And I'm holding the Alt key so I can move the pivot around, but that's basically it. So I can just position this well where the shoulder should be, and then I can do this type of stuff. So that's how I post it. Obviously, when you post hard surface modeling or hard surface models, there's gonna be intersections and things might move around. So what I did was just post it in the way that I wanted to. And let's say there was like an intersection here, or I don't know, this thing was kind of like colliding around there. So after I posted in the way that I wanted to create the pose, I went ahead and cleared the mask, and then, bit by bit, I went into this same mode, isolating it, masking it, inverting it, and then with the move brush, just slightly tweaking it. And this is obviously going to change the volumes, obviously, but again, in this case, I kind of like the organic feel to it. If you want to maintain like a specific, volume for the hard surface, you might need to do a bit more tweaking, and that means just, let's say move this entire piece. So that includes these details, right? And then you can just go ahead and do that. So, and with a mecha like this, these parts are intended to be movable, like otherwise the character wouldn't be able to move. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, and that's it. I just went to the Z plugin, click on T-pose, or yeah, T-pose to sub T, and it's going to bring those changes and bring them into the mesh. Right, and that's it. Now we have that pose in there. That's it. I have a couple of new materials as well. So this is just kind of like an alien material that I was working on. You know, it gives you like lots of noise and detail for, you know, for free. As in, you don't have to have like the most detailed surface, but automatically just has all these variation as well. That's a pretty cool one. But yeah, let's go ahead and start something new. I'm gonna show you some cool samples or some other stuff. I just want to double check that that this is working in all the streams. It should be. So Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube should be working. But anyway, if you guys can let me know, that'll be great. Hey Dizumi, how's it going, man? Unrelated question, but wanted to ask if you will make the new comic madcap you mentioned in emails free or paid. Any estimated time on it? No pressure. Yeah, so to answer that question, like with a straight answer, yeah, it's gonna be free. It's going to be it is basically a slightly tweaked version of the one that you already have access to. So it's gonna be free, an updated version of that. And I'm gonna be releasing it, I think in what's today? The 3rd. So let's say in a week, I would say. The reason it's ready. The reason I'm waiting is because I wanna accompany the release with a video tutorial as well, just to explain what the changes are and how you can use it and how you can leverage the new version. Because it's very subtle, the changes. I went through all the settings and then tweaked them a little bit, but it's very subtle. But it works really well with, you know, with polypaint and materials and other materials and stuff like that. So I think to answer the question, yeah, it's gonna be free, and it's going to be in a week, I think, hopefully. So yeah. Hey Charlie, thanks. Awesome, thanks. So it's working. Hey Javier, welcome to the stream. How's it going? Cool, no worries. All right, so I thought we can start something else today, just something fun and more like on, you know, sculpting organic stuff, just so that we go further from what this character is. And I found this really weird creature. It's kind of like a shrimp. It's called the Epimera loricata. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'll show you the references I found to do kind of like an alien version of this. So I'm using pure ref. I'm just gonna go full screen here. Ah, my keyboard is not working. Great. Anyway, so yeah, this creature, I feel it's kind of like an alien version of a Pokemon, or I don't know, but it's I think this is a real thing. So it's a pretty awesome stuff. I didn't know this thing existed, so yeah, I just want to do something like this. Maybe it might be very different, but I have this as a reference, and maybe we can turn it into more like a Geiger-esque type of thing, you know, like a bit darker. But yeah, it's gonna be creature stuff. The sand flea. Cool. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna start pretty much in the same way that I start most of the things that I do. I'm just gonna block it out with a sphere. All right, I'm gonna turn symmetry, obviously, just to work a little bit faster. And let's say this is going to be the body. And I'm gonna use deformers just to get the shape right very quickly. So again, it's not gonna be exactly the same thing, but we can go ahead and use the taper deformer. And taper both sides, I think. And we could use something like the bend arc just to bend it like so. Yeah, I think it's fine. All right, so this is gonna be the body, but then we can change things around using just the gizmo. So I have these buttons here in my UI, but that's just kind of like my personal shortcuts to change the focal shift, which is the same thing. So if I right click, or for you guys, if you're doing using the standard UI, I think it would be here at the top, but it's this one right here. So just the focal shift with the gizmo that changes the influence of the gizmo. So right now I'm moving the whole thing, but if I go to, let's say 25 and let's say place it in here, you say I'm not moving the entire bit. It's just it's kind of like an elastic rubbery thing. 50 is a lot more intense and 75 is very localized. So again, that's just, as you can see, changing the focal shift. So with that, what I can do is rotate this even more from this angle. Just bring it closer. And here, let's say where the main mass of the body could be, I can just scale that as well. Like so, and maybe push this to the side, and we can do the same thing, just rotate things around. Right, maybe with a 50. No, 50 is already too much. Let's just use that, and then move it around here. And I'm using this, like lately I've been using this quite a bit. Actually, since they released this version of the Gizmo being kind of like influenced by the focal shift, I've been using it quite a bit. But yeah, this is the idea. All right, and obviously, oops, don't switch. We can use the move brush to adjust this even further. So yeah, this is gonna be the this thing has a name, like the carcasses or something. I don't know, but the kind of like the part that goes on top, the shell, if anything, and then we can build those kind of like spiky bits all around it. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to Dynamesh this in a lower res, maybe not that low. Yeah, so that's not too bad. And then from this piece, we can use Sculptris Pro and keep duplicating pieces and adding to it just to build, again, like blocking it out, right? Could you very quickly remember what's the deal with the gizmo being influenced by the focal shift? Yeah, it's basically you have the gizmo, right? Depending, it's kind of like let me bring something up. Here we go. So imagine that this gizmo, well, the center point of the gizmo has these. This is how I think about it, right? So I might not be the most accurate explanation, but I think about it as a magnetic field, kind of like. So imagine that there's a magnetic field around it, right? That encompasses the entire figure. So with the, let's say, focal shift to 0, right? Then you are not influencing that magnetic field. If you set the focal shift to, let's say, 90, what you're doing is reducing that magnetic field. Right? Again, this is just how I think about it. So you're reducing it to be, let's say, around there. Right? So what that means is that when you move the pivot with the focal shift at 90, ZBrush is going to only move, obviously, let's say the center point of the everything that is around the center point, and it's gonna fade that intensity based on that number. So 50% or a focal shift of 50 will be, roughly this. Yeah, roughly like this. And then you can just move the focus shift depending on what you want. So if that, hopefully that makes sense. If I were to try this, let's say I'm gonna set the focal shift to minus 100. Sorry, this actually the first one. Sorry, forgot this was in the minus 100. right? So if I set this to -100, right, I can just move this around and I move the entire thing. If I set it to 50%, which should be 0, then it's kind of like this one. And you see there's less influence. If I set it to 75 roughly, which is 80, the influence is more like the blue lines that I did. So that's essentially it. I mean, once you play around with that and see what it does, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. It's kind of like what's the name? Like a not magnetic, like a soft deformer type of thing. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and build this very quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this mesh, and let's bring it closer. All right, and then with the move brush, we can adjust this. Again, I have this as a reference next to me, but I will change it to suit my alien needs. So it feels very alien. All right. Cool. So let's go ahead and do the spikes, which I think are very prominent in this design. So I'm going to duplicate the top area. Someone said, Charlie said, is the carapace, maybe. It sounds proper. So I'm just going to duplicate it. Go into solo mode, and I'm going to use the knife lasso probably. Yeah, use the knife lasso. And I'm just going to delete. Let's go for this. Right, delete that, redynamesh, maybe slightly more than that in terms of the resolution. And yeah, let's just go ahead and smooth this a tiny bit. Get out of solo mode, and we can go ahead and inflate that whole thing. And this is going to be one of the first pieces of those spiky bits. I'm gonna use the snake hook brush, and I'm gonna activate Sculptris Pro, and also the AccuCurve, so it's just quite pointy. And yeah, just gonna push that. So and this is the cool thing about Sculptris Pro. You can just very quickly block things out. Right, and I'm gonna move to, or switch to the move brush just to adjust this a bit more. And I still have the Sculptris Pro enabled, so if I hold the Shift key to smooth things out, it uses the Sculptris Pro to smooth things out. So have a look at what's going on. So obviously, depending on the brush size, I can add geometry just when I smooth it, or if I switch to a larger brush, hold smooth, it will just change the geometry as well. So it's quite handy to do it like using this workflow. So it's actually quite thin from the sides, the profile. And then these little flaps, they kind of like overlap the rest. That's how they interconnect, I think. All right. Another cool thing you can do is to use the Sculptris Pro. So I'm gonna turn this so you can see. Again, with a small brush size, you can set a bit of resolution there, right? And this is just holding Shift to add more of these points. I'm going to use a mask brush. This is a custom mask brush that is super sharp, like so. And that's the reason why I use the smooth brush to generate this amount of polygons, because if I do it in here, it's going to be, pretty low res. So you can quickly generate more resolution just for the masking points that you want to use, like in this case, this. And I'm going to use invert that, and maybe, actually, let's blur it first. Invert that, and then I'm going to use the move brush just to pull this out a bit. And create some kind of a thin piece there that I think could go really well with the design. Again, I'm making things up as I go. It is based on that weird Epimeria creature thing, but yeah, I just want to vary things a little bit. Obviously, this is being stretched quite a bit, so after I pull this out, I can just clear the mask and use the smooth brush, which I have with the Sculptris Pro, and then just add resolution or clear this up. You could do the same thing with just Dynamesh, by the way, but this one is quite easy. And I think I don't like the two spike things here, so let's cut that up. So hold Control and Shift with the knife lasso and redynamesh. Oops, let's not redynamesh. Yeah, so something like this that flows a bit better. All right, so we have that fin. That's, that piece that we can then duplicate and adjust to the rest of the body just to create that carapace thing. Yeah, and then we can do other stuff. Maybe some, let me give you an idea of what I'm thinking already. So something like this. So yeah, I'm thinking of doing more of this, right? Maybe instead of just a pair of eyes, we can have a bunch of them. Yeah, if you like the stuff that I share online and my work, I tend to just use these multiple eyes thing in my characters, which I think is quite interesting idea. So yeah, something like this, and then some really thin and creepy legs. Maybe one with a fin or something like that. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how this develops, but that's what I'm kind of like visualizing. So let's go ahead and work on the rest. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll have a look at it, and I'm happy to, if it is not related to what I'm doing, I'm happy to talk about or answer them as I work on this. So feel free to let me know. What are we doing right now? We're just doing an alien creature type of thing. It's a made up design, but we're basing it on this weird thing that I found on the internet, the Epimeria loricata. I think it's yeah. I think the Epimeria is the name, but there's different classifications. It's kind of like a shrimp. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this. Oh, I already done that. So let's take one of these. Use the the Gizmo. I'm gonna set it to 0 so that I can move the entire thing. Place it. I'm also using symmetry, so I'm gonna turn off symmetry. Center it with this icon here. And from the side, in order to do what I'm gonna do, you need to make sure that you have perspective off, so that you can basically move it based on the camera. So I'm gonna move this around. Let's complete the front first. And instead of duplicate, you can do it in two ways. You can do it the way that I just showed you, which is selecting a subtool and then duplicating it, or you can just hold Control. So I have this one selected. You can hold Control and just push it like so. Again, hold Control. Hold Control. It doesn't matter that things are overlapping a bit. I'm gonna adjust that in just a second. This is kind of like close to the head already. All right, so I have this piece that has all these things, but I can just go ahead and do an auto group. And now every piece has its own polygroup, and I can adjust this quite easily. Let's select the other one, or another version of this, and do the same thing for the back. And as I do this, I can also hold the Alt key just to move the pivot. Again, switch to, let's say, 75, and then just rotate things around a bit and move it to start at, I mean, you can do this afterwards, but, you know, it works as well. Hold Control. I'm not too worried about, you know, how this is looking in this area. I'm definitely going to change things quite a bit with the move brush later. This is kind of like, again, blocking it out. This one would be the tail or part of it. So, all right, I'm going to clear that. Do the same thing I did before, auto group, so that we have all those pieces. And in fact, let's just merge everything together. So, I mean, these pieces. So let's go to merge, merge down, okay, merge down, okay. So now we have all those pieces with different polygroups working nicely. And then we can use the move topological with the AccuCurve as well, and symmetry, obviously. And we can adjust this, like I said, relatively quickly. And, you know, at this point, I would start varying the shapes a bit so that it's not like so perfect. Make it a bit more organic. Just trying to maintain that sort of overlap. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's working fine. Let's have a look. How do you place in your UI these the focal shift steps? I did custom macros for that. So I think actually a couple of weeks ago I sent an email in the newsletter just about that. If you sort of like backtrack it. Oh, by the way, that reminds me of something. So for those of you that are here that are not part of my email list, so I have a newsletter where I send like weekly tips and tricks, updates on the projects that I'm working on, like resources, all sorts of, you know, cool things. So you can go to the, I'll share the link later. If you haven't, you can subscribe. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I have a, hang on, here we go. So I have a new Pinterest board, right? And this Pinterest board has, I'm gonna start putting all the different tips and tricks that I've shared in the past in that newsletter in a condensed, smaller, you know, easy to digest form. But yeah, they're pretty cool. I'll send a link here. If you want to follow me on Pinterest, you'll get that as well. You can also follow Eman, who's helping me with this. Hang on. Probably have to do this manually just because my keyboard is not working. Ah, yeah. Hang on. I need to do something extreme. There we go. Right. So yeah, basically these are like the different tips. So you can just click on this and go through the cards, and it has like a summarized version of the tips. And again, I've sent over over 100 and something emails with different tips. So this is just the beginning. There's gonna be more coming up. I just thought I should share that the board is here. So keep an eye on it, and there will be more tips, and there's just a variety of them. They're random, but you might find something interesting in there. Cool. So yeah, that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to show you guys actually before we move on with this creature is that the asset library workshop that I've been talking about is now available for enrollment. So I'll just show you what that is in case you are curious. And I'm pretty excited about this workshop. So if you go to the 3dconceptartist.com, right? The first thing you see here at the top is this ribbon. You can click on it because the library workshop is open, but you can also scroll down and is this one here. So if you click on grab your spot, it should send you to the page, right? And the live workshop is happening at the end of the month, so on the 30th of May for Australia time. So depending on where you are. But yeah, you can just use this to check your time zones. It's just a little link I created. So for me, it would be at 8 a.m. from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. But then you can just check your time and add it to your calendar if you wanted to. So yeah, you can just watch this video, which is kind of like an overview of the asset library workshop. These are some examples of the different projects that I've used where I've been creating custom brushes and custom alphas, materials, things like that for those projects. This is essentially what the whole thing is about. Yeah, so you just go through it. This is what you're gonna need in terms of the software that I'm gonna use. So these are the essentials. So I'm gonna be using ZBrush, Photoshop or Krita, Blender, and Substance Painter. So I'm going to show you how to create like smart materials and how I think about creating resources for that, how to break down the materials. Then there's also these other tools, but those ones are like kind of like good to have. You don't have to have them. I'm going to show you the portability of those assets. But in a nutshell, this workshop is all about building your own high quality assets. And towards the end of the workshop, I'm hoping to show you kind of like a breakdown on how I pack and how I do I wouldn't say the marketing, but the visuals and the graphics and everything that I put out there for my packs. So I'm going to show you all the systems and the tech and the services that I use in case you want to take your own assets and turn it into a product that you can actually sell as well or share online. But yeah, we're going to be creating advanced custom brushes. I'm going to go into very detailed explanation of how I produce the brushes that I produce, like the Geiger brushes, that sort of thing, the skin brushes, and also materials, smart materials, essentially building a library of things that are your own, of high quality, that then you can reuse and that way speed up the workflow. And building a library, I think, is one of the most important things, something that you can actually use. Because to be fair, I have a massive library of assets of things that I've collected over the years, that I've created myself, that I've purchased, different things, but I don't use, I use like 5% of them, and that's one of the key aspects of this workshop is to build things that you will actually use in your projects to speed up the workflow. And that's how I managed to produce lots of different things in a shorter amount of time because I have lots of things that I can use and reuse, materials, lighting setups, all of that. So yeah, if you're interested in that workshop, is there. So I'll just put it here. It's in the 3dconceptartist.com. This here at the bottom, and you can just go ahead and save your spot because it's gonna be a live workshop and I have like limited seats. So as soon as I reach capacity, then I'll obviously close the enrollment. But I think you have plenty of time. It's at the end of this month though, so yeah. And if you're part of my email list, I'll give you a reminder when when I'm getting closer to reach that capacity of people that I can have in the live workshop. But yeah. Let's continue with this. And yeah, if you have questions about that, feel free to let me know. Alrighty. So let me just go ahead and tweak this a little bit. Just trying to think about what's the the flow for these things. So let me just set it up and then I'll show you what I'm thinking. Oh, I guess I can just tell you as I go. Basically, I'm thinking that these spike things start very, very sharp, very spiky, and then they turn into more of a useful flap that this guy can actually use, or that is used by this creature to navigate whatever space or whatever. So yeah, you see these ones are more like a rounded pallets more than the spikes. So it's kind of like a natural progression from the spiky bits here, which can be more of a defense mechanism or something, to these more useful flaps that probably can move a little bit independently, but they're more like flaps rather than fins or anything. But that's just to let you in my head, as in this is what I'm thinking as I tweak this, really. Alrighty. You know what? This also can be. I'm gonna select the mask lasso and mask this area, invert it, and then that way I can just push things like that. So this can also be another aerodynamic shape that can be used for to navigate stuff, right? Same thing with this. I can hold the Control and Shift as well to isolate one piece, and that's make it a lot easier to mask this out. Actually, let's invert it, bring everything back, and invert it again so that I can actually see how can I overlap these bits. But yeah, I'm thinking we are getting there. Let's do the same with this, just to repeat the process. Mask an area, bring back everything, invert that, and then just push that. Alrighty. The rest of them, let's have a look at it from the bottom. The rest can kind of work more as a defense mechanism again, just protection more than function. I mean, protection is a function, I suppose, that has less functionality than the other ones. And as I do this, right, because I always think about the story, but also how this creature can actually live in whatever environment, if it's a space, right, or the deep ocean or whatever. I try to think about what are the needs in terms of the the anatomy of the biology of it to survive in whatever condition, and that just thinking about it, it helps me to define things like I'm doing, right? So essentially thinking about how it would work. There's something, it's producing a weird effect here. Hang on. Yeah. Maybe the brush size is too big. Or not. I have a feeling that, hang on, let me just do auto groups again. All right. Maybe there was a weird group in there. All right, so I'm just gonna push this one in here. And I think as it goes closer to the head, we can make them narrower, these pieces. And I'm gonna try to interlock them slightly differently. But yeah, as you can see, this is quite sketchy. And I'm just already trying to think about where I can fit the eyes. So I think it might be, you know, these two pieces towards the to the front could be kind of like a helmet for the creature. So the eyes might be around here, so there's like protection as well. And obviously there's nothing wrong with trying shapes. That's why I have that spike. And for some reason I feel that this is not in the center. Maybe it's this one. Hang on. I'm just gonna go ahead and do a mirror and weld to double check. Actually, a mirror and weld. There we go. All right, so I think we have the idea blocked out. Let's go ahead and do the rest just to complete the blocking, and then we can spend some time refining all those interaction of these shapes and you know, bringing it closer to a proper design. I suppose that would be the next step. Actually, I want to take the first subtool, the one that is barely visible at the moment, right? And I'm just gonna pull that down so I can hide some of those pieces with that. So I'll use this mesh to control the transition between those fins or panels and the actual lower body. I'm just pulling this out like so. All right, just so that it's there and I remember to use it. Let me have a look at the chat. All right, no questions or anything so far. Cool. For the arms, what I'll do is I'm just gonna work on one and then duplicate it and alter it. So essentially the same thing that I did with the top bit. So let's go ahead and append. Let's append a, oops, that's from, let's delete that. Let's do a quick save as well. Haven't done a save. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually let's have a look and see this creature, how many panels it has. So yeah, it's almost like any arthropod type of thing. So yeah, 1, 2, yeah, we can make it up. Is alien enough. So append, oh come on, append a cylinder. Going to solo mode. Actually, before solo mode, I'm just gonna kind of like place these, or just leave it there. Yeah. Going to solo mode. And this is gonna be exactly the same thing that I did before. So let's place that first on one side, and then we can mirror and weld it. And the legs, I think they're gonna come from here anyway. Right. And I'm gonna use the taper deformer just to give it a slight change of shape. And then yeah, hold control, click and drag. Let's scale this back. So that's one thing. Hold control, click and drag. And I'm just gonna make them thinner and thinner as I move them. And hold control, click and drag. All right. Yeah, I think that's creepy enough for one. And then what I'll do is, again, just work on one and then duplicate it and change things like, I can mask an area and go, this could be like this and that sort of thing in the other ones, just to variate it. So let's go into solo mode just for now. Let's use the auto groups feature just to auto group that. And then I'm going to use the move topological and also have the Sculptris Pro enabled in this, if I access the smooth brush. So let's just do that. So I'm going to quickly smooth everything, which ultimately gives it a bit more resolution. And also, let's use the inflate brush with the Sculptris Pro to just add some volume here, just in the joints and how this thing actually articulates. All right. Hey, Pablo. ¿Me recomiendas aprender a medida que trabajas con estudios? So yeah, Andres is asking if I recommend learning how to draw as well as you work in 3D or like in ZBrush. Yeah, I mean they're interchangeable. I think the skills, as in if you know how to draw, if you know how to represent a 3D mass or volume with 2D, if you have the knowledge to do that, you can definitely, it's gonna definitely make it a lot easier for you to do the same thing in 3D. But yeah, so you could do it at the same time. For me, like I learned like 2D and illustration way before, you know, ZBrush wasn't even available to me. So I would say yes, but it doesn't really matter. I think that's what I'm getting at. Like just start with whatever you feel like doing, really. And that's the beauty of it. Like you can just work on whatever you feel like doing one day. Let's say you wake up and say, oh, you know what, today I got inspired by something that I saw in 3D and I just want to try that out. And then you just learn that, or vice versa. You just saw like a really cool illustration or a sketch and you want to try that as well, and you just practice that. As long as you're consistent, I guess that's the real deal. Just consistent in the way that you approach the learning, whatever you decide to do. It will be worth it. I guess that's the thing. Because you can learn anything. You can be working on a creature, and then you decide to take on knitting. Just to knit a scarf with wool. Something random. If you're enjoying it, if you really get into it, the skill itself can help you understand how to do fabrics, for example, or how fabrics work, or the quality of the material of wool when you get to 3D and do clothing, for example. So that's what I was saying. Like if you do 2D or if you do 3D, the skills are interchangeable. You can use them. You can produce things in 3D, like I have my comic style render, like that sort of stuff, and then finish them in 2D. So whatever you decide to take on practicing on one day doesn't really matter. It's just, I guess, the this long rant of just chatting is whatever you enjoy doing. If you're not enjoying it, there's no point. And one of my things, at least in that sort of like educational space, is to make things interesting and fun. So that's why I don't, I just try to keep things interesting and fun as I teach the workflows and something more technical, I guess. And that's one of the things from my workshops. I don't know if there's anyone here that has taken any of the workshops that I've done, but that's the idea, right? And that's the reason why I make them live, and the reason why they are structured in the way that they are, so that it's cool and fun to do it while you're in the workshop, but then you get something out of it that can be used later on. So you have the skills, and you have the the tools to produce really anything that you want after the workshop. And I'm talking, for example, like the creature workshop that we did recently, or the series for illustrators as well. It's kind of like on the same line, what I'm saying. All right, so as you can see, I've just been tweaking these things. Nothing too fancy, but it kind of like goes with the design, I think. And what I'll do now is I want to also add some indication, some details, but not really. Just blocking out some kind of like flow of the design with this, with my standard brush, or my Geiger standard brush, which is pretty strong. And that's just to get to this place faster. So it's like trying to maintain that that design, that idea of the panels from the body, but also into the arms. It's kind of it's maintaining the visual language, really. That's all there is. That's all this is. And it could be very subtle. And all of these that I'm doing, by the way, can be done with the you know, a stronger version of the standard brush, probably. All right. I'm not gonna do too much on this, as in too many details, because that might be making it too. I want to keep it generic, and the reason why I want to keep it generic is because then I can easily variate it more for the other legs. All right, and also I'm gonna use the HR Geiger cutter. So I use this cutter and standard strong from the Geiger brush pack just because it's, you know, I use it for a lot of things now. It's kind of like my replacement to the standard brush as well as the damp standard brush, just because the effect is stronger and it allows me to do things faster, like to block anatomy, for example, and muscles. This one is a great brush. But yeah, you can do anything that I'm doing here with just a stronger version of the standard and the damp standard brush that comes with ZBrush. Alrighty, cool. So I think we are good with this. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna Dynamesh this with Oh, you know what? I don't think we need to Dynamesh it. I think this would be almost ready to do like a subdivision thing. So yeah, we'll do that. Just gonna add a tiny bit of curvature here. And yeah, all right. So before I do anything with this, I'm gonna duplicate it and just put it at the top in a folder. Hang on. Let's just leave it as it is. These ones are the originals that I would like to keep. And let's go ahead and place these. So this would be. I like to start with the main one, like, or the larger piece, and then that serves me as a point of reference for the other ones. So this one would be the main one. No. And then I'm gonna hold Control, click and drag. Actually, I'm gonna split them so that I can work a little bit easier. This. Push that in. And then I can just, you know, move them a little bit better so that, yeah, they feel not the same. We can do it now, actually. So hold Control and Shift, mask that point, and then just place this around here, I guess. This, I'm gonna auto group this. There was some bits and pieces. Yeah. All right. I kind of like the way that it was, though. Almost like all the legs are sort of like clumped together. Yeah, you know what? Maybe this one could be slightly longer. Yeah. All right. getting creepier and creepier. I want to duplicate this again. This one will be a bit smaller. And it will come down here. Yeah, so I kind of like the fact that if you look at it from the distance, it's almost like one single, you know, leg, and the division of the different legs feel like the, if you think about this as the deltoid. I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but if you think about this piece as being the deltoid of a human, right? You have like the divisions of that deltoid in there just by the overlapping of these panels, which I think is cool. And then, yeah, after that it just splits, but it feels like a single arm almost. But then, from a different angle, you have all these weird looking things. So yeah, I like that. Let's go ahead and mask that. And again, it's all about blocking things out in oh, see, this is what I mean. Sometimes when you use Sculptris Pro, you get these like holes or things. So it's always good to make sure that you do an auto groups every now and again, just so that everything, yeah, now it's working. Everything that, or every piece, it has its own polygon, not like random pieces. It's one of the caveats of using Sculptris Pro, but other than that, it's a fantastic way to block things out quickly. How are we doing with time? Oh yeah, plenty of time. All right. So this creature is gonna have 4 legs, I think. But the 4th one could be like a creepy, useful hand, something that he can use. Hey Paul, do you have a video that shows us what do your macros, or someday you're gonna do it? Like if I have a video about my macros, I saw the video that that you show your shortcuts, and it'd be cool to see it. So you mean like if I have a video showing what my personal macros do, or if I have a video on how to make macros? Well, regardless, if you go to the YouTube channel, to my YouTube channel, there is a video on how to customize the UI, and I show how to create your custom macros, and even like these palettes that I have here, my custom palettes, how to do all of that. And you can also get a file to download this specific UI for right-handed people and left-handed people as well. So you can go ahead and do that from there. But other than that, the macros, my macros, I have lots of macros, some of them which I don't use anymore, and I still have them there. So all of these things, I don't think it's useful enough, or not enough for a lot of people to know exactly what my macros do, because they're very specific. So for instance, these 0, 0, 25, 50, and 75, they just they're just simply shortcuts to take the same focal shift and just move it around, right? So I can click on that and just change it from -100, 50, 0, and 80. But I can do the same thing with this, and anyone can do that. So my macro, really, what it does is just simplifying my workflow for what I use it. That's why it's important to learn how to manipulate your UI and create a UI that works for you. So telling you what my macros do, I'm happy to show you and tell you what they do, but they're not necessarily something that is going to work for your workflow, if that makes sense. All right, let's wait until ZBrush finishes this. Hopefully it's not going to collapse. Alrighty. So I'm going to take this arm and I'm going to duplicate it one more time. And this is going to be a tiny, let's just pose it here first. This is going to be kind of like a tiny extra limb or extra leg that the creature can use to, you know, manipulate the food or capture victims, or just to make it creepier. Sometimes that's the only reason. And it could be some kind of like mantis type of effect here. But I guess from all of these that I've been showing you guys, one of the most important aspects that hopefully it's evident now is that the ability to block things out so that you know where, like, what to aim for is crucial. And everything is like super blocky, very sketchy. You know, everything is like Dynamesh and Sculptris Pro, but you get a good sense of what this creature would be like, and then you can, you know, refine it in any way that you want to. Like, again, like I said in many times before, at this stage I'm not even worried or thinking about, you know, topology or how it is going to work later with the textures or anything like that. This is just purely designing, which I think is the important part. I'm just gonna rotate it so that it doesn't collapse in the middle line when I mirror and weld it. But other than that, I think it works. Right, so we have those creepy things. As soon as I do a mirror and weld, it's gonna look even creepier. But before I do that, I just wanna tweak the placement even more. So I'm just gonna use the move brush and just hold the Alt key just to select. Select the subtool that I want. And then I guess we can focus on, you know, integrating this a bit more with this piece that at the moment is quite sketchy. So let me increase the Dynamesh resolution a bit. I think that's plenty. And at this stage that I have the rough idea blocked out, I think I can also add maybe some pieces for the for like a tail thing. I'll do that later. But at this point, I've been using just move brush, snake hook brush, you know, very limited set of brushes. Now I can start using some sculpting brushes as well. So I'm gonna use the clay brush without Sculptris Pro. That's the reason I increase the Dynamesh resolution here. And I'm just gonna use this to find a nice transition. Or just to generate the volumes really, where these things can actually fit into. And this, yeah, this could be just a quick way to define that. Oh, you know what I haven't done? Let's also redynamesh this with a bit more resolution and polish that whole thing. I haven't added the, you know, the eyes and all of that. So let's actually finish the block out before we do anything else. So I'm gonna add a sphere. This will be one of the eyes. And I've been pretty much working on a side view, really. I mean, I've kept an eye on the entire different views, but yeah, I think this looks really cool. It's from this angle. All right, so that's gonna be one of the eyes. I don't know if it's worth adding a few more just for the sake of making more alienish. So something like that, maybe. So 3 eyes in a row. I think that's kind of cool. And of course, let's adjust it so that, you know, this is something that could actually could happen. So this, or not that it could happen, but there's like some reasoning for this, not just for the sake of making it look cool in the design, so that, you know, this piece can actually hold those eyes, and these other kind of like panels at the top, they serve as a protection for it. So that's what I'm doing, really. All right. I'm gonna use the same standard brush that I used before. Maybe increase the resolution slightly. Just this is again to quickly define some areas here that could be the insertion of those panels. And let's think about how this works inside of this area. Because this one could be the mouth of this creature. It's more like a beak. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. All right. We are getting there. All right, so the last bit that I want to block out is some sort of tail. Let's just do it the old school approach of just pulling and pushing things. So I'm going to use the sphere, place it around there. I'm going to flatten it as well, scaling it, and let's do a bent arc deformer. And yeah, enable Sculptris Pro, symmetry. Let's use the move brush. Not really sure about the shapes, but I want to do something that goes with the spikiness. and with the thinness as well, with the, you know, something that goes with the fins at the back. I don't know. More like a shrimp tail than anything. These guys actually have a tail, but it's like a bit thick. Right. Yeah, I think that's alright. That works. It's a tiny, you know, I don't know if it should go that way, or we just curl it like that. Hang on. I think for the purpose of what I'm doing, making it like curl up like that works well. Yeah, it's hard to. Let's undo that. Just gonna duplicate it. I tend to do this quite a bit as well when I'm trying to decide how things should look like in a design. Just duplicate things and test both options really. So it could be that way, or it could be that way. Right. Or both. Nah. So I think I don't know. What do you guys think? I think this works just for the flow of like making everything kind of like circular and concentric, and yeah. Let's go for this one right now as yeah, just to continue the rest. Yeah, cool. So we need curl in. I agree. And then yeah, we can just do all the stuff later. If anything, you know what? Let's duplicate this one more time. Flatten it a bit. Make it smaller. And then there's like 2 of them. Nah, that doesn't really make any functional sense either. Alrighty. So what I'll do now is make everything super creepy by merging or mirror and welding everything. So mirror and weld all the legs, the eyes as well, and that's pretty much it. All right, so now we have this creepy thing that floats around. Oh, hang on. Did I just mirror and weld? Oh, I mirrored like into the nothingness, but now it works. Cool. Disappeared for a second, but now we have this creepy thing. And what I'm thinking for like the display of it already, I think this could be like a trophy, or like not a trophy, more like a collector's item that it's a creature or something that you would display on how can I explain this? Yeah, just like in a display, its own display. So it's like mummified, or you know, if it's like an ancient thing, it's mummified, or just the carcasses of it. In you know, there could be like a nail or like a needle holding this thing that is quite small in a platform, and then you can just display it in your house. That's what I'm thinking. So that the pose that I have is gonna be very similar. I just tweak a few things just to make it more organic, but yeah, that would be pretty much it. Yeah, like an insect display. That's right. But yeah. So yeah, I just need to think about what else I could do. But yeah, that's the idea. I'm gonna switch to another material just to show you the one that I developed for this sort of alien creature stuff, which is this one. And like I said, it's a material that already looks quite cool. So yeah, basically this is the one that I would use to block things out and define the volumes and all of that. This one is not something that I would necessarily use for sculpting because, like I said, it already has lots of details and a lot of things going on. So it distracts me from the main shapes and the primary and secondary forms. So I wouldn't use this for sculpting or setting things up. But in general, it's a pretty cool material just to, you know, get some details and some nice extra details for free. And it is a cool way to judge the polishing of the surfaces. So these ones, as you can see, there's like some ridges in here, and that is the result of that when we pull things with the Sculptris Pro and the move brush. So we can just keep that, but if I see it in this, it's barely visible, but turning this on, it kind of like suggests that idea or that detail. So I like it for that reason, that reason only, so that I can, you know, go ahead and start doing this, refining those details even more, like really pushing it. Again, I can do that from any material. I just think this one is that way. Is useful in that way. Same thing with a piece like this. You can tell very easily where the polygons are. So yeah, it's quite cool. This is a material I built recently. Yeah, just a custom material. I use a madcap material. I called it the PMG alien material for lack of a better name. But yeah, it's just a cool one. All right, so what I'll do to wrap it up, we'll still have plenty of time. So I'm gonna select this bit, and I'm gonna increase the resolution quite a bit, and then just polish it. And I'll use the cutter, the HR Geiger cutter, to define these panels even more. And that's kind of like the underbelly area of the creature. Like that. Let's have a look in here. I think this whole thing could be a single piece, so I'm not gonna follow through with all of this paneling. I think this whole thing could be a single piece, maybe some indentations as well. And we can use the Geiger standard brush. By the way, I keep mentioning this in case you don't know what I'm talking about. Those are brushes that I have in a pack that is available in my store called the HR Geiger pack. So it's a bunch of brushes to create this, this style, this creature Geiger-esque style. So it's there if you wanted to. And those brushes that I'm mentioning are this one right here, the HR Geiger cutter, and the standard strong. There are a couple more, like there's this standard sharp and the cutter pinch. So those ones are also very helpful, but in more specific circumstances. So it will have like a more of a pinch effect, and it is a lot more control. Like, you can do some more control cuts, and this one is better for, like for sharper corners. Again, it gives you different type of behavior, different control. So the only reason I use these ones more and I have them in my UI, the cutter and the standard one, the standard strong, is because they're more useful in most circumstances. So for most models, I can use these ones, but the other ones are a bit more specific, like the use of them. But yeah, these are, and all of these things and all of the settings for the brushes and all of that, that's really what I want to focus as well, or part of what I want to focus on in the assets library workshop. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. So if you just jump onto the stream and don't know what I'm talking about, I shared this just briefly before, that the asset workshop, this thing here, the one that I'm pointing with the tail of this guy, the asset library workshop is going to be a live workshop that I'm going to be doing at the end of this month, and the enrollment is already open. So if you're interested in creating your own assets and your own brushes, materials, you can just save your spot. I think it's like a very different very different workshop than what I usually do, but I spent the past 3 months just planning it and thinking about what would be the most useful way of tackling it, and I think I'm pretty happy with the program that I set up for the 5 days, like intensive 5 days in a row that we're gonna be doing that that workshop. So if you're interested in that, by all means, or even if you don't want to create your own library of assets, although that is the main purpose of the workshop, I think it would be a really good, let's say, like a good experience to understand how things are developed and how things are created. But I'm sure once you see the things that I've set up, you will see the value on creating your own custom assets. And it is really because I can produce something like this, like a concept, like a sketch like this, in let's say in 2 hours that we have in the stream, right? But then I can take this even further and polish it rather quickly with details, with custom materials, custom alphas. I have like settings or scenes that I've set up, like lighting setups, HDRs, materials that work with specific lighting scenarios. All of that, I have that set up, and yeah, there are like awesome, really cool resources that you can get online. And I've done that myself. Like I've bought different resources as well, and to support other artists as well. But building your own assets and building your own library of things that you use, I think is the most the most invaluable thing you can do. And like I said, I have a library of assets that is I think it's in the terabytes, including like references and images and all of that. But yeah, I think once you start like refining it and really pay attention how things are built and what things you actually use in your projects, that's when you can scrap 90% of the assets that you have and just really focus on that 5% or even less that is really going to push your designs and your production quality and the speed as well. That's ultimately what those assets could be used for. Hang on, I think I was using well. Yeah, sorry, I didn't have symmetry enabled for this guy. And for this guy, yeah. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. I mean, it's a very specific thing, very specific workshop, because we're not necessarily gonna create like a concept, right? We're gonna do all sorts of different things, materials, PBRs, all of that, but we're not gonna create a creature concept necessarily. It's more about building all the things and all the steps that you might need to, present or again speed up the workflow for any project, not just one specific thing. So that was the idea of how I kind of like came up with the workshop and how I developed the plan for it, the program for those 5 days is focusing on that idea. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me see the chat quickly. Which material? Okay. I'm the guy that made the brushes. Yeah. Thank you. Glad that you like them. Random question. Is there a way to reduce the subdivision level for many subtool at once? You have like to go by can you be more specific? When you say reduce the resolution, you mean like just move the subdivision, like if you already have subdivision and you want to just go to a lower subdivision for all of them, or reducing it as in doing a Dynamesh or a series measure for all of them? Not sure if that's the question. If it is just about moving all of the subdivisions that you already have to the lowest one, there's a button for that. So right now in this piece, all of these are in the lowest subdivision, I think. Not this piece, sorry. This one. So I have multiple subtools, and you can just go from the geometry palette, you can go to the lowest one by one, or you can just click on the subtool palette, you can go all low or all high. So all low would just send everything to the lowest, all high will send everything to the highest. I don't know if that's the question, sorry. I haven't had a chance to use them, no worries. Hey, saludos desde Argentina. Yep, you can just go to the website that I have here on the little graphic here at the bottom. So the 3dconceptartist.com, but I'll share the link. It's this one right here. So all the information about the workshop is in here. This video will just give you a rough indication of what it is. I'll just put it in here in the chat. Hang on, just need to access my keyboard from the bottom, because my other keyboard is not working properly. All right. So yeah, if you go to that link, that sends you to the workshop, and yeah, you can have a look at everything that we're gonna be working. Some examples that so yeah, this basically gives you an idea of the different assets that I created myself, and most of the things that I have online that I've shared or that I have in the store, they come from personal projects. So that's one of the key elements of that workshop, is that as you work on your own projects and you be able to identify the things that you use the most and that you kind of like gravitate towards in terms of your style, your passion of what you do, that's how you can create custom assets that really work and that really push your your skills and your creations, really. So that's the reason I created the Geiger pack, because I like to do those creepy type of surreal dystopian future type of thing. I created those brushes for these type of assets or this type of characters and that sort of thing. So that's why I created the Geigers and the Geiger brushes, and then I just put them as a product to share them with other people. But it's the same thing for this character right here. I needed some specific things, so I created the cloth and drapery brushes. For this character, I thought, I'm gonna build my own skin brushes. So all of those things are because of a project, because of a work that I wanted to do, but identified the need, and then that way I create. Anyway, all of that is going to be part of the workshop. So yeah, just have a look at that and see if that interests you. The course is not necessarily for beginners, although I'm going to explain everything from the very basics, or not very basics, but I'm gonna cover the basis of how things work, like the brushes system in ZBrush, all of that. So yeah, if as long as you have access to the tools that I need, or that I would suggest you have for the workshop, and as long as you know how to the basics of ZBrush and navigate and all of that, it's all good. But it's not necessarily a beginner's workshop. I mean, it could be for beginners. It's just like the fast-paced nature of it might not be suitable for a beginner, right? So it's not like it's aimed just for advanced users. It's more like we only have 5 days, and it's about 3 hours, like 2 blocks of 1.5, 3 hours a day to produce that library of assets and cover the other stuff that I wanna include. And if you're a beginner, you might run into an issue that is like, oh, I don't know how to do this, or why did you do this in this specific way? And it might be a beginner's question, and that makes, that will slow you down in the workshop. And the thing with the workshop is that it's not a tutorial as in like a step-by-step. I mean, it is a step-by-step, but it's not like a tutorial in that sense. It is a workshop. It is doing things. So we're going to be creating things together, sharing things together. It's a more interactive way of doing things, I think, and we can hold each other accountable. There's going to be homework, so I think it's it's really fun. It's really fun. I mean, I've done different workshops in the past, like the creature workshop and the ZBrush for Illustrator workshop. So those have been quite successful in what we produce and all of that, and I'm quite happy with how they went. So that's what I like doing these type of workshops. But anyway, so all I'm doing right now with this creature is trying to define things a bit more. Just so that, once I switch to the other weird material that I showed you before, it's going to be more evident, all these things that I'm doing. I'm going to Dynamesh this actually with a larger resolution, polish it. And yeah, just going to add some details, not details, but like an indication of what this could be. Let's see, there's any questions? Can you give me some tips on block out of an object? Yeah, sure. I mean, keep it low res as you can. Start with primitives. Pretty much what I did for this, all the things that I mentioned at the beginning of this stream. Like if you go back and watch it, those are the tips that I would suggest. Like keep your brushes, the amount of brushes that you use limited, or like the tool set limited to just a few. Keep the low resolution for as long as you can. If you manage to represent the idea and show the volumes and all of that with a very low res or a very simple primitive, that's definitely a good start. So yeah, things like that. I guess more specific advice or more specific suggestions will come as you have a more specific object. So like if you tell me, how can I block out a human, right? Then I might have a slightly different suggestion, as in, use a cylinder for the arm and spheres for the joints, right? But in general, when you block in a creature or a character or anything or any object, those are the generic things that I would say are useful. Just keeping things very, very low res, and try to represent everything with primitives. And if you want something that where I cover that practically, there is a workshop in the 3D Concept Artist that it's a free workshop, a 3-day workshop that you can do by email. I mean, you just register and you get the lessons in your email. It's called the Robot Workshop, and that workshop is really good for that, just to identify how you can block any object with primitives and It has a very simple methodology that you can follow, and but then you can do something really cool with those simple workflows. So yeah, if you go to the 3D concept artist, it's there, and if you want to use it, so it's this one right here. So just go to the 3D concept artist. You can go to resources. And in the resources, you can go to workshop. Is this one right here, the one that I was just talking about. So the robot workshop, you can just sign up for it. It's a free one. And depending on your level of like how beginner or intermediate you are, you might want to try this 3-day ZBrush Core mini creature workshop. ZBrush Core mini creature workshop. And this is same thing, but it's kind of like giving you a taste of all the process. This one is a slightly more advanced, and it covers like a bit of compositing and rendering as well. So it's there in case you need it. We have 10 minutes. Let's see the chat. What's the difference between Dynamesh and Sculptris Pro? I use Dynamesh, but I'm not sure if I should go. Oh, it's whichever you feel like using, right? I use them, as you can see. This mesh right here is Dynamesh. The other ones are Sculptris Pro, right? It's depending on what you feel like. I think Sculptris Pro gives you a lot of freedom to explore shapes, so I use it a lot when I'm figuring out the design. Dynamesh is something that I would use as well to, start figuring things out as well, but when I have the block out. So if I were to just tell you how to use it, is just how I use it, right? But they're like very similar. The main difference is Dynamesh, it will take a sphere. Let's say this is quite an important thing. So let's say that you have a sphere, right? And then let's say you have the same sphere, and this will be Dynamesh and this will be Sculptris Pro, right? With Dynamesh, the resolution is kind of like having a grid, right? So you have, this is a low resolution grid, and this is a high resolution grid. Lots of squares. And then you have that grid, and then when you redynamesh, ZBrush takes that grid and projects it, let's say, from all the angles into the sphere. So you end up with something like this, right? But it's roughly all the same size. The main difference, as in all the squares are roughly in average the same size, whereas Sculptris Pro, what it does is not necessarily projecting anything, right? So if you turn if you turn on Sculptris Pro, ZBrush is not going to change the topology immediately. What it does is, based on the brush size, right, is going to change the topology. So a brush size, let's say this is, I don't know, a size of 50, and this one is a 5, or a size of 10, right? As you draw with this brush, ZBrush is going to create triangles that match that size, right? But in the same tool or in the same sphere, you can use a smaller brush size and then just do smaller details like that, right? So it's different in that sense. Another visible difference is that most of the polygons that Dynamesh produce are quads, even though they're triangles, but most of them are quads, whereas with Sculptris Pro, everything is triangulated. So you won't find quads in here. Like that, right? But this is what is good about it. So if I select my standard brush or my damp standard, enable Sculptris Pro, and I draw something like this, you see ZBrush is creating topology just in that area that I needed. So I don't have to redynamesh this with a massive resolution to be able to do that. And I can even go like with smaller brush to add even more details, right? And that's the awesome part. But anyway, you don't have to use one or the other. You can use them interchangeable. Like if I'm happy with this, how it's set, I can just dynamesh the whole thing and continue like that, or increase the resolution. It's really, really up to you. Cool. Drink water thing. Thanks, mate. You just cool. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you in the workshop. Yeah, which depending on, I mean, depending on what what workshop are you talking about? The workshop that I just showed you about the robot or the creature, those are free. You just, yeah, you can just get into those, and I'll show you how to do different things. The one that I was talking beforehand, I don't know if that's the one that you're referring to, which is, you know, the asset library workshop. That's a paid workshop because, you know, it's a full on week, and I've spent months planning it and creating the resources and the program. So that's and it's a live workshop as well. So that's the difference. But I don't know which one you're talking about. Los cursos son en inglés. Yeah, all the workshops at this stage are in English. Cheers, man. Yeah, I'm seeing the comments. I'm keeping an eye on the chat. All right, so we have 5 minutes left. I think we are pretty much. Let me just select a different material because this one is look to at least present where we are at right now. And I'm just gonna do some. Hang on, saving the project. But yeah, let me have a look. Yeah, Sculptris Pro is amazing. It's a very cool way to establish some details as well as you work. Yes, that was the question for going back to the lowest. Okay, cool. The only option is either go all low or high, or can you go 2 and 6, for example? Nah, it's I wouldn't. No, you can just go all low or all high, but no 2 out of 6. That I don't see the use for that unless you want to just see 2. But if you're only going to go for 2, like as in you want to just select the 2 and let me just show you what I mean. I have the lowest subdivision thing here in my UI. So if I want to only see 2 things in the lowest subdivision, I can just hold the Alt key and click on it, right, on the tool that I want, and then go to 1 and then to 1. So in that sense, that's really easy and really quick, and the rest of them are in the highest subdivision level. So that's why I have it here in my UI. And you hold the Alt key and then just go into those, and you know, move them up and down. I don't see a scenario where having the ability to just go 2, 3, or 4 specifically will be useful. I would just use what I just showed you, that process of holding Alt, selecting, and then going to the lowest one. But you know. Cool. So yeah. No worries. I'm glad that you like the emails from the newsletter. Glad that you like them. Cool. I'll probably buy the silver one. This one. Yeah, you don't have to buy it. This is I will share this for free. I mean, it's not. It's yeah. it's just one of my materials tweaked. Like if it was part of a pack and I'll spend more time like tweaking it and adding more stuff, like I probably can sell it. But this is gonna be free. If you guys are interested in this material, I will share in the Discord channel later. Right. So no, I don't think there is a way of doing what you're asking. You could. I still think the thing that I just showed you for only 2 or 3 subtools is pretty easy. Like if I only want to have the head of this creature and the base to the level 2, I will select that and just go 2. That's it. Right? You can create a macro though. Now that I think about it, where you can create a macro where you can send all the visible tools to a specific subdivision level. So that way you would have to just say, okay, I want to make this the head and these details visible. So those are the visible subtools. Let's take these ones to the lowest subdivision level or to a level subdivision 2. And you can do that with a macro. But yeah, we don't have time. I need to wrap it up right now. But you could do that just with a macro. Just look it up. Is my Discord channel? Yeah. I can share a link to it. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so the Discord community that I have is pretty amazing. It's mostly moderated by the students that I have in the Extra Mile, the big course that I have online. So they know my workflows and they know pretty much everything. The way that I work. So they can give you a lot of tips. Plus, they are pretty amazing as well. All right, so I'll just put it in here. And I'm gonna have to do this again. Control E, paste it. Still my keyboard is not working, so I have to use the other one. Yeah, so this is the public invite. So you just click on that and log in into the Discord. And yeah, we have like lots of different channels. Some of them are private and unique to the to the courses. But for example, for the creature workshop, for the asset library workshop that I'm going to be running at the end of this month, there are going to be some private channels so that we can share resources and communicate throughout the week and all of that as well. So it's a pretty active and pretty cool community. So and I tend to the same thing as if you're part of my email list. If you're part of the email list, you'll be the first one to know about any updates or if I release this madcap or anything like that. But for a quick chat to share things, I use Discord now because it just goes to more people that are interested in the stuff that I'm doing. Cool, awesome. Yeah, so you'll see me again in here in a couple of weeks. So let me just tell you when exactly. So the 17th, so for me right now is the 3rd of May. I'm in Australia time. So the next time will be on the 17th, Tuesday the 17th at the same time. And we can continue working on this guy. But I think it's looking all right. Pretty creepy. But yeah, I'm going to leave it here, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully all this process has been helpful. And, if anything interesting, I had fun setting this up. And yeah, so feel free to check that. The Asset Library Workshop, I think, is going to be pretty cool for what I have planned. So just go to that one and just keep in mind that it's going to be live. So I have a limited set of seats or amount of people that I can have in the live streams or in the live session. So I'm going to close the enrollment as soon as I reach capacity. So if you're interested, maybe just grab or reserve your spot. All right, so I'll leave it here, guys, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.